going on. Speaking of recruits and looking at the future, LSU hosted their junior day over the weekend and got a big-time commitment. And you're starting to already feel the emphasis and the impact of Corey Raymond on this staff. Jabari Antoine, who is a cornerback out of Westgate, he's ranked the number 3 cornerback by On3's 2025 class, committed on Saturday's Cajun Bash that LSU hosted over the weekend on campus. Antoine, as we said, ranked by On3 as the number 3 cornerback prospect in the 25 cycle. He's a top 20 prospect nationally. He's a, from the state standpoint, he's right there behind Harlem Berry, the running back out of New Orleans, the 5-star who committed a couple of weeks ago. Antoine's right there as a top 3 recruit in the state for the 25 cycle, committed over the weekend. LSU in desperate need of defensive back. These are the types of guys that you have to get. These are the guys that they've missed out on the past couple of cycles that have set LSU back when you're talking about defensive backfield and what their needs are, right? I mean, we've talked so many times about just desperate defensive line, defensive back to get those guys, and missing out on guys like Derek Williams, missing out on guys like Jordan Matthews, missing out on guys in the first go round like Jacoby Matthews. Those are impact players that you have got. Wardell Mack in this cycle, who's going to Texas.
Another swing and miss at Deserix.
Jabari Antoine was a guy that they had to get, and for them to get the commitment this weekend was an enormous step. And again, what is a class of 25 that's shaping up to be something that could be historic. I mean, when you're talking about if they can, wrap up Bryce Underwood, they can wrap up DK Moore. They've got Harlem Berry. You got a guy like James Simon up in North Louisiana. You got Jabari Antoine this weekend. You got Keelan Moses committed to the class. I mean, this is a class that really, you look at usually what the backbone and the stability of championship teams are, and this is that type of class. I mean, it feels like this is the class that you can build a championship around. So,
but not only that, it feels like you get automatic dividends from the return of Corey Raymond, where he was specifically mentioned by Antoine, who said, "I'm all about development. Development is a top priority for me." This is me quoting him. "Development is a top priority going into my decision, and Corey Raymond is a household name for development. The biggest thing in my recruiting process is development, and I want to be developed and trained by the best." So for the people that thought, Corey lost his fastball, he showed you 99 on the black real quick.
No doubt. I mean, look, we have never kind of bought into the Corey Raymond is past his prime storyline. To get him back, this is the type of stuff that happens immediately, right? I mean, not only do you get a commitment from Jabari Antoine, did I see a 5-star safety said that he's coming to visit LSU?
DJ Pickett.
It said he's coming to LSU to visit because of Corey Raymond. I mean, you got to get those guys on campus, and LSU's usually at their best when they can get guys on campus. When they get them here, it's usually a good percentage that they're going to close on them. But for the immediate, they've got to get this position group in and back on campus, and to see where Corey Raymond has picked up. Just a couple of days on the job and picking up a top prospect in Jabari Antoine. Great start for Raymond. Speaking of the start to the weekend went well for LSU as the news came through, and officially it was sent out by LSU that Austin Thomas is returning to LSU after a couple of years at Ole Miss. He is returning as he has been serving as the chief of staff for Ole Miss and has been a huge integral part of what Lane Kiffin and the Rebels have been doing over the last couple of seasons. Thomas really grew into this position at LSU. LSU made this spot up for Thomas a couple of years ago. I think initially he began working for Les Miles in 2013. He spent 4 years on the staff until 2017. And then he was promoted to general manager in 2016 before he eventually went to Texas A&M. He's had stops at USC. He's been to Tennessee, Ole Miss, and now back with LSU. And a lot of the time you get the question of, what does Austin Thomas do? What does his position do? And from a roster building standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, remember last week we told you that Will Redmond took the general manager role with Auburn, and Hugh Freeze, and Redmond was, he ran the personnel department at LSU over the past couple of seasons. He and his two lieutenants took jobs last week, which left this job wide open, the personnel department at LSU wide open. And Thomas comes in with just significant experience in this field and understanding of how to build rosters and understanding how to build relationships, and has already great relationships built in. The time on this job is really what you need, in the experience to build this Rolodex that Thomas has been able to accumulate over the past decade. Really, he started at LSU in 2013. He's been all over the place for the past 9 years, and now back at LSU here in 2024. So for the past 10 seasons, he's been just accumulating and building relationships into where you look at Ole Miss's roster now. I mean, who had a better offseason than Ole Miss? Austin Thomas was enormous in that. You want to know why Lane Kiffin's been melting on social media?
Very publicly.
I mean, why he keeps just obsessing over the LSU game, and he's putting out these photos and videos about LSU, and I mean he's throwing a temper tantrum. I mean he's throwing a temper tantrum on social media. I mean he's melting on social media, and
it's not a bit either,
right? I mean, like I think people will say, well, that's just Lane being Lane. I mean, it is, but I mean, it's rare to see him act as blatant, and I mean, like he's been on it now for a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
we
get it. But, I mean, the Thomas situation has obviously got him ruffled, because Thomas means a ton to what they're doing. I mean, he's got Lane Kiffin, from what I would have told you, very much like an introvert. Like he's not a big relationship builder. If you look at who really likes Lane in the process, like kind of in the recruiting process, it's kind of like the recruits, like the younger people. And, I mean, after that, he's kind of like it by himself, right? I mean, he doesn't really roll with boosters. He doesn't really ask for favors. He kind of does his own thing, tweets out pictures of himself doing yoga. And then
his dog.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a very kind of looks like what is a lonely relationship for Kiffin. And I mean, I kind of get that. I'm kind of a do my own thing, don't really need a crowd type person. So, I mean, I kind of get where I kind of relate to him, but in this, he's kind of showing how big the job is, and sometimes what the pushback may be on bringing him to the giants of the sport, right? Like this doesn't play well at LSU. That doesn't play well at USC. That doesn't play well at Alabama. It almost doesn't play well at Ole Miss, where, I mean, there's got to be some people at the top that are like, I mean, is this for real?
Oh, we get this Lane again.
I mean, like,
because
will somebody take his phone away?
Because usually what he's doing, it feels like he's the one that's making the jokes, right? It feels like it's always him kind of getting one over on you. This time it's happened, and he's still trying to play the same game, because usually when Lane's tweeting, he's up to something. This time he was grasping for straws. And for Lane Kiffin, I could see the frustration, because I finally felt like I was elbowing Ole Miss to the big boy table, like with the recruiting class, winning back-to-back 10-win seasons. Like it felt like Nick Saban leaving, like there was room for one more, and it felt like with the pieces that he had in place with Austin Thomas, which I imagine if he is acting out like this on social, he probably had some sort of relationship with him. Like you talk about him being an introvert, it felt like he and Austin Thomas were kind of maybe making waves together, where they had a plan in place where, like, okay, this could work at Ole Miss. Like, we have a collective. And that's what I wonder it felt like Austin Thomas had the job before the job. right? Like whenever he was a general manager, it was like, well, what does he do? Well, now the job has become everything that you want Austin Thomas for. There's NIL, there's transfer portal, like all of those things that you would want a general manager for. Now that role is he can do it out in the open. It feels like he can actively help your program, and you almost need a general manager in college football now. Like the job has become so, like you have to keep your eye on all of the moving pieces around you. So if you have somebody that can kind of do roster management, that's one more thing the head coach didn't have to worry about.
Oh, without question. I mean, they are building football programs on a collegiate level now, like NFL teams. I mean, you've got personnel staffing, you've got general manager staffing, and at some point you'll have somebody on staff to be managing a salary. I mean, to be managing the money. And they probably already do, right? I mean, it's just not out loud and there's a title to it. Somebody has that task of keeping up what the payroll is, right? I mean, it's not like you have to keep it within some cap like the NFL does, but at some point you will be able to, or you'll probably have to. So you'll just bring that position aboard and run it like an NFL team. I mean, we've talked about this is minor league football. I mean, this is why the NFL doesn't really mess with college, because it's almost so perfectly set up where these guys come out of college, you know who they are, you know their name. I mean, we can sit here and rattle off the top 10 picks in the mock draft, whether it's going to be Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors. I mean, like, we all know these people, right? I mean, Dallas Turner, Kool-Aid McKinstry. You know what I mean? Like guys that we all know them already once they go into the league. The NFL looks at the college football and they're like, yo, let them have Saturdays.
Yeah.
I mean, they're building this thing for us. I mean, they're just feeding this farm system of players and talent that they're doing all the marketing for. They're doing all the brand building for. They're doing all of the hard work. And once they get to us, we're just ready to do our thing on them.
I mean, so it's self-sustainable. The NFL doesn't have to inject anything into it because there's no finer destination for college football players. The whole thing is built on the dream of playing for the NFL. It's like you get the right to be in this exclusive club, and college football is really your only pathway there. And for college football to be, which I think it's made a considerable leap in popularity over the last 4 or 5 years, where it
college
felt like
football?
Yes, it felt like it was very much like for LSU. That's never changed, but it feels like everybody in America is now invested in college football as opposed to, I don't know if it's because it's been making more news with like the NLI and like how kind of the game has exploded onto the scene where it's like, whoa, we kind of have to pay attention to this. I don't know if it's for better or worse, but now pretty much everybody is paying attention to college football.
I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, I think the NFL and college football over the last decade have experienced enormous growth in popularity. I mean, the NFL has always been a monster, but it does feel like the monster has multiplied over the last 20 years. And I think college football has a hand in that. And it's almost this perfect symmetry and relationship between two unrelated entities, right? Like, I mean, they don't have, I'm sure the NFL looks at the NCAA and are like, cool. What a cluster.
Well, the NFL's right. We can come in here and fix this pretty quickly.
Quick.
But what they don't want to meddle in it. You can see because the NFL has proven, look what it does to the NBA. It can take any day of the week at once. And for some reason or another, it says, no, y'all are doing the marketing for the NFL on Saturday for us. And so there's no reason. It's this perfect symbiotic relationship that shouldn't exist, but it does, just because of how important the NFL is and how popular it is. It's a farm system.
Yeah. Like it's minor league football.
Right. In baseball, you don't have that. Nobody watches minor league baseball. Like, you're not paying attention to it like you are college football. Like, you see Dylan Cruz, and you won't see him for 2 years, and then you'll pop back up like, oh, I remember him from LSU. And that's a first and second overall pick. Same thing for Skeens. And he goes up to Pittsburgh, and you don't know when he'll move through the farm system or how quickly they'll want to call him up because of arbitration, how they do the money there. So you kind of become a star in college baseball, then you get hidden away. For college football, you go from Heisman Trophy or playing in the playoff to, boom, rolls right into the NFL draft, and then it's like, oh, this is still fresh. Like, Jaden Daniels continues to climb up mock boards, and it goes LSU, Jaden Daniels, Heisman, second or third player taken in the draft. Like, you don't have to rebuild. You don't have to rebuild his brand. He's already a star.
No, it's the perfect system. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, the NFL does not want to touch the NCAA, doesn't want to touch college football because it does its job for them. And I mean, this is trending towards. I mean, we talked about it last week a little bit, and you know, sometimes it's kind of the big dark secret in the room that nobody wants to say out loud. But at some point, you're going to have to really start to weigh how much does school matter for these guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's becoming fast and I mean, really kind of evident that this is turning in to farm league football, where TV contracts, the expectation for those TV contracts are now that of the NFL, that every week you play a game, it better be a television draw. It better be something that they can sell and promote. So the weeks and the seasons are only going to become tougher and longer because, you know, look at LSU's schedule next year. I mean, just look at who they play. They play USC, Southern California. They play UCLA. They play all of the SEC teams that, you know, now are in there, including adding Oklahoma to the roster, who becomes a league game. I mean, you just can't really hide anymore in college football. Each and every week you're going to be in a marquee game because the television contracts are cutting this enormous check where they expect in return something that they can promote. And that's what they tell the NFL. I mean, what has been the owner's biggest push the last 5 years that they finally got 2 years ago? One more game.
Mm-hmm.
And they clouded that in player safety. Like, if you're so worried about the safety of the players, why in the hell would you play another game? Well, the money's too good.
We can just make money if we play on Thursday.
I mean, well, do you care about player safety? Well, sure we do. Do you care enough to take games off the schedule? Well, hell no, we don't.
I don't care that much.
Right? Like, I mean,
Whoa,
we don't really care that much. I mean, it's cool to go out there and, you know, like, say, like, player safety, new equipment.
Until you have a playoff game where Patrick Mahomes' helmet breaks and everybody thinks it's awesome.
Yeah, but you keep him out there.
Yeah. You can't get a new helmet because it's too cold to put it on. It's frozen.
There is no rule in the rule book that says he has to come out the game. His helmet's just broken.
Yeah, his helmet didn't
replace the equipment and put him back in the game.
Yeah, but we can't replace the equipment because for some reason in the NFL, we're not going to spend money on that type of thing. Helmet's out in the cold. We got the chain gang out there, so just look away.